You think your green card guarantees safety at the border? Think again. 2025 just rewrote the playbook, and what's happening at airports right now has even seasoned immigrants on edge. Picture this. You land, smile at the officer, scan your fingerprints, and suddenly you're escorted into a cold room under fluorescent lights. No warning, no reason, just silence. Today I'm exposing the 7 new hidden rules that could make or break your next trip, and how one wrong move could erase everything you've built in America. Stay sharp. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I will give you a heart. Rule 1. The hidden airport ban no one told you about. You think your green card means easy re-entry? Not anymore. In 2025, geography, not time, has quietly become the border's secret filter. Even if you've only been gone for a week, one wrong layover could pull you into secondary inspection. No red flags, no warning. Just that gut punch moment when the officer's smile fades and they say, "Please step aside." Here's what's really happening. USCIS and Customs and Border Protection systems now cross-match flight itineraries with regions under elevated scrutiny. Not full bans, but risk zones. Even lawful permanent residents, LPRs, are getting flagged if their travel paths align with these areas. It's not discrimination, it's data correlation. Algorithms don't care how long you were gone. They care where you've been. The moment your passport or flight logs link to certain airports or transit countries, your file quietly jumps to the Inspect Further list. One Filipino green card holder told us he visited relatives in Dubai for just 3 weeks. When he landed back at LAX, the officer looked at his passport, paused, and motioned him over. He thought it was random until he learned Dubai flights had been under enhanced screening that month. Thankfully, he carried a folder, pay stubs, lease, utility bill, and his latest W-2. It took 15 minutes to verify he truly lived in the US. Without that proof, it could have been hours. That's the new normal in 2025. Proof over promises. Saying, "I live here" doesn't carry weight anymore. Showing it does. And the best proof isn't fancy, it's consistent. Rent receipts, bank statements, an active US phone plan. The kind of paper trail that tells immigration you didn't just visit America, you live here. Here's what catches many travelers off guard. Exemptions no longer mean invisibility. Even though LPRs aren't targeted under country restrictions, the systems that flag entries don't distinguish between citizens and residents until the review stage. By the time they realize you're exempt, you're already in the side room answering questions. So how do you protect yourself? Keep your re-entry story short, sharp, and consistent. Example, I live in Houston. I was in Manila for 3 weeks visiting family. I'm back for work Monday, then immediately back it up with a document, pay stub, lease, or driver's license. Officers aren't looking to trip you up. They're checking that your story, your timing, and your paperwork match the data in front of them. If your itinerary includes layovers and flagged regions, even short ones, print it. Have explanations ready. Show awareness. That's what separates the confident travelers from the nervous ones. In this climate, confidence is credibility. And remember, data doesn't feel empathy. It doesn't know you missed a flight or had a family emergency. It only sees travel patterns. That's why your best defense in 2025 is consistency. The same name, the same address, the same intent to return. Because when your fingerprints scan and that officer tilts their head, it's not about where you've been. It's about whether your story adds up. The difference between walking through in 5 minutes or being held for 5 hours comes down to one simple question. Does your life on paper look like a life in America? Rule 2, the 6-month trap that silently ends green cards. This is the rule that ruins more green card lives than any travel ban ever could. And most people don't even realize they've triggered it until it's too late. It sounds innocent. I just stayed abroad a little longer than planned. But in 2025, that sentence can quietly reset your entire immigration journey. Here's the cold bureaucratic truth. 6 months is the invisible wall. Once you stay out of the US for more than 180 days, immigration officers can decide you've broken the continuity of residence. That's not a minor slap on the wrist. It's the foundation of your green card being questioned. The moment they believe you've abandoned your US home base, your lawful permanent resident status starts wobbling. And here's the kicker, even emergencies don't erase that timeline. In one case out of California, a father stayed abroad 9 months to settle inheritance matters after his mother's death. When he tried to re-enter the US, CBP marked him for possible abandonment. Now he's in court, trying to prove that his heart and home never left the States. The heartbreak? He never intended to give up his green card, but intent doesn't matter, documentation does. So what's the shield? Form I-131, the re-entry permit. It's your only legal lifeline if you know you'll be abroad longer than 6 months. It tells USCIS in advance that your absence is temporary, not permanent. But there's a catch. The 2025 backlogs are brutal. Filing this late is like trying to buy insurance after the accident. So if you've got even a small chance of staying out longer, file before you leave. Treat that form like oxygen. And if you're working towards citizenship, this rule hits twice as hard. Staying away more than 6 months doesn't just delay your N400, it can reset your naturalization clock entirely. One smart subscriber shared that he delayed his citizenship application by a year after realizing he'd been gone 7 months in total. Painful? Yes, but it saved him from denial. So let's be clear, this rule isn't flexible. It doesn't care if your flight was canceled, if your mother was ill, or if your job needed you longer overseas. So the system measures only dates, not reasons. Here's your safety checklist. Never cross the 6-month mark without a re-entry permit. Keep travel logs and flight receipts. They matter in court. Always maintain active ties to the US. Lease, taxes, bank accounts, job records. Because when you land at JFK or LAX and the officer checks that stamp, they're not judging your loyalty, they're judging your timeline. You can replace a lost suitcase. You can reschedule a flight. But if your absence breaks the 6-month wall, you might just lose your green card and everything you built around it. Rule 3, the relationship scrutiny rule that's catching families off guard. What proves you belong more? A marriage certificate or the neighbor who knows you both by name? That's the question haunting thousands of green card holders in 2025. Because this year, immigration officers have shifted their focus from paper marriages to paper lives. The system doesn't just want to see that you're married. It wants to see that you're rooted. Here's what changed. Before, a signed marriage certificate and a couple of shared bills might have been enough to prove your relationship, but in 2025, the scrutiny is deeper, digital and personal. Officers now analyze travel logs, digital footprints, even your shared delivery history. Yes, your Amazon Prime orders could be part of your immigration profile. If it looks like you and your spouse are living separate lives, even for legitimate reasons like work abroad, your return at the airport can suddenly become an interrogation. One viewer shared how she and her husband, both green card holders, lived apart temporarily. She worked in Texas. He managed family property in Manila. When she flew back to the US, an officer at JFK questioned her marriage status. If you're married, he asked, why is your husband still in another country? She showed photos, a joint bank account, and a shared lease, but the delay still cost her 3 hours in secondary inspection. This is the continuity of household test, an informal checkpoint officers use to determine whether your marriage is real in practice, not just in documents. USCIS and CBP systems now sync with tax records, credit card billing addresses, and even school records for your kids. If those addresses don't match, or if activity patterns look inconsistent, your case lands under possible separation review. And here's the smart move. Start building a digital footprint that mirrors your real one. Keep your US home address consistent across every platform: banks, subscriptions, healthcare, schools, insurance, and taxes. Take photos together during local community events. Maintain joint memberships, shared bills, and health insurance under the same policy. These small, everyday details form an unshakable story of togetherness. One newer couple passed their re-entry check with ease. They didn't carry stacks of documents, they simply spoke in sync. Same answers, same tone, same memories. They laughed about the neighbor who always borrowed their ladder and showed a joint airline receipt. That was enough. Remember, officers are trained to detect hesitation and inconsistencies more than lies. If your answers flow naturally, your proof feels authentic. But if your story wobbles, different addresses, mismatched accounts, or separate travel patterns, you'll face deeper questions. So the rule is simple but sharp. Don't just prove your relationship exists, prove it breathes. Keep your life interlinked, online, on paper, and in person. Because in 2025, the strongest proof isn't your wedding date, it's your daily rhythm. Rule 4, the financial rule that's silently deciding who gets waved through. Here's a reality check that hits harder in 2025 than ever before. Your finances now speak louder than your passport. When you step up to the immigration counter, that officer isn't just looking at your travel stamps, they're mentally calculating your financial footprint. The logic is simple, even if it feels unfair. If your money still flows in the US, your life probably does too. This year, immigration officers have quietly leaned into a new trend: financial presence verification. It's not an official rule printed on USCIS Gov, but it's a pattern travelers keep reporting. Officers are asking more about jobs, tax returns, and pay cycles than ever before. Why? Because anyone can say they live in the US, but if your tax record says otherwise, or if your bank account's been inactive for months, the system starts to see you as a phantom resident. Here's how it plays out. Picture yourself returning from abroad. You hand over your green card, confident, smiling. Then the officer pauses, they type something, squint at the screen, and ask, "Do you still work for your employer?" You nod, but their next line chills you. "When was your last paycheck?" And that's not just small talk. CBP's data sharing system can cross-reference IRS and Social Security records. If your tax history shows a gap or your employer stopped filing wage reports, it triggers deeper scrutiny. You don't need to be rich, you just need to show a consistent financial rhythm that proves you're still part of American life. Here's the golden formula in 2025. 1 on-time tax filing per year equals stability. 1 active US bank account equals roots. 1 consistent paycheck or small business invoice equals presence. 1 credit card still in use equals proof of daily life. Even a small, steady financial pattern can keep your status solid. A grocery run on your American credit card, a water bill under your name, a tax record showing you paid even if modestly. These aren't luxuries, they're lifelines. But what happens when that rhythm stops? Chaos. 1 missed filing, 1 closed bank account, 1 expired ID, and suddenly you're standing at the airport explaining why your life on paper looks frozen. That's why the quiet truth of 2025 is this: financial silence looks like absence. One traveler shared how he almost lost his re-entry. His green card was valid, his taxes filed, but his US employer had marked him inactive after 7 months overseas. The officer's system picked it up. It took a printout of a recent freelance payment to prove he was still earning from the US. The difference between suspicion and approval? A $400.00 invoice. So how do you stay bulletproof? 1. File taxes yearly, even if you earned nothing. And file as a resident. It shows you never left your financial home. 2. Keep a small US account open. Use it occasionally, even just for automatic payments. 3. Maintain a consistent address. The same zip code across your IRS, credit, and employment records tells one clear story: you belong here. 4. Renew all IDs early. An expired driver's license screams absence. It may sound boring, because it is, but boring equals believable. Officers love clean, predictable stories. Regular bills, regular payments, regular filings. That's how you glide through customs in 5 minutes instead of sweating in a fluorescent lit room for 5 hours. So next time you think your love for America is enough, remember, immigration isn't reading your emotions, it's reading your receipts. Rule 5, the social media trap that's quietly catching green card holders. This one doesn't come printed on any immigration form, but it's tripping people up faster than any paperwork error ever could. In 2025, your Instagram feed can speak louder than your passport. It's the social media trail rule, and yes, officers are watching. Not to spy, but to verify. When your travel story at the airport doesn't match the digital story you've been posting online, red flags start waving. Think about it. A single throwback photo from another country posted at the wrong time can trigger questions about how long you were really gone. Here's a real example. One green card holder flew back from Dubai after visiting family. Simple trip, 2 weeks, nothing unusual. But during inspection, the officer already knew her travel timeline because she'd been posting stories from abroad for an extra month after her return flight supposedly landed. Turns out she had scheduled posts. Totally innocent, but to an algorithm scanning timestamps, it looked like a lie. She spent 2 hours in secondary inspection explaining what scheduled content meant. And it's not just Instagram. Facebook check-ins, LinkedIn job updates, TikTok clips, even YouTube vlogs. All of it feeds into the pattern officers compare against your declared timeline. They're not scrolling for gossip. They're scanning for contradictions. Here's what that means for you. Everything you post, like, or share paints a picture of where you live. When your public activity says I'm living abroad, but your documents say I reside in the US, you've just built a contradiction, and contradictions invite questions. So how do you stay safe without living like a ghost online? Audit your old posts before traveling. Delete or archive anything that could confuse your location. Lock your privacy settings on unused accounts. If you're not using a platform, set it to private. Avoid posting real-time travel updates while you're still abroad. Post after you return. Keep proof of your itinerary and US commitments in your folder, pay stubs, rent receipts, tax filings to back up your story if questioned. It's not about fear, it's about alignment. The story your life tells online should match the story you tell the officer. One immigration attorney summed it up perfectly. In 2025, your feed is your footprint. So ask yourself this: if a customs officer scrolled through your last 10 posts, would they see someone visiting the US or living there? Drop your honest answer in the comments below and brace yourself, because Rule 6 takes this one step further. It's not about what you post, it's about who you are on paper and how even a single mismatch between your IDs can throw your re-entry into chaos. Want me to continue with Rule 6? Rule 6, the identity mismatch rule that's delaying thousands of green card holders. This is the one nobody warns you about because it feels too personal to mention. Imagine handing over your green card, your passport, smiling politely, and suddenly the officer pauses. Their eyes flick between your photo and your document. Then come the questions. Have you had a name change recently? Why does this gender marker not match? Here's what's happening. Digital systems at US airports have gotten faster, but not always smarter. When even a single detail on your documents doesn't align, your gender, middle name, or a newly changed last name, the algorithm flags it for manual review. And that means you get flagged for questioning. For transgender, non-binary, or recently married immigrants, this is becoming a nightmare. Why? Because while USCIS, the State Department, and TSA have updated policies to allow X gender markers or name changes, airline reservation systems and older border databases haven't all caught up. Some still recognize only M or F. Others don't recognize new name updates until months after they're processed. That gap creates chaos. There are stories of travelers being pulled aside for hours, asked invasive questions, or missing connecting flights, all because one database said female while another still said male, or because their airline ticket used their old surname while their green card used the new one. The good news? There's a way through this minefield, and it starts with preparation. Carry every matching ID you have, green card, passport, driver's license, social security card, in one slim folder. The more consistency you show, the quicker the check. If you've had a name or gender marker change, bring your court order or legal certificate proving it. Officers are required to honor legal documentation, but they move faster when they see the paper. Print your flight reservation and match it to your IDs before traveling. If one letter is off, contact the airline to fix it before you fly. Don't assume it'll be fine. In 2025, mismatched data triggers more rechecks than ever before. Know your rights. U.S. Customs cannot deny re-entry over a gender or name mismatch, but they can delay you. Your job is to shorten that delay by having proof ready. This rule isn't about legality, it's about dignity. You deserve to walk through immigration without being treated like a question mark. The system may not be perfect yet, but with foresight and preparation, you can stay ahead of it. Because when it comes to travel in 2025, identity isn't just who you are, it's how the system reads you. And one wrong line in the database can turn a routine flight home into a 3-hour interrogation. So fix the data before it fixes your fate. Rule 7, the renewal backlog rule that's stranding green card holders abroad. This one blindsides people, even the careful ones who think they've done everything right. You renewed your green card, you filed the paperwork early, you got the USCIS receipt notice saying your status was automatically extended for 36 months, and yet when it's time to fly back to the US, the airline won't let you board. Why? Because they don't recognize the extension. That's the renewal backlog rule of 2025, where bureaucracy meets miscommunication and travelers get trapped in the middle. Here's how it works. Since September 2024, USCIS began issuing a 36-month automatic extension for anyone who filed Form 90 green card renewal. It's a fair system meant to protect lawful permanent residents while card production delays drag on. But here's the problem. Many airlines don't know this rule exists. Airline agents are trained to look at one thing, the expiration date printed on your physical card. If it's expired, that's the end of the conversation. They don't care that your I-90 receipt notice extends it. They don't know that USCIS policy says your residency remains valid. All they see is an expired card and a passenger trying to board a flight to the USA. Hundreds of green card holders have already learned this lesson the hard way. Stories have poured in from London, Manila, Dubai, and Toronto. Travelers denied boarding at the last minute because airline staff weren't authorized to accept an expired card, even with an extension letter in hand. One woman in Abu Dhabi missed her flight and had to spend $1,200.00 to rebook because the supervisor had never even heard of the automatic extension. So what's the fix? Preparation, not panic. Here's a step-by-step way to stay one move ahead. Apply for renewal early. File at least 6 months before your card expires. Delays in 2025 average between 14 and 20 months, so the earlier, the better. Carry both your expired card and your original USCIS receipt notice, Form I-797C. The letter clearly states your extension period, and it's your lifeline at check-in. Print out the official USCIS policy page on automatic extensions. It's available on USCIS GEV. Keep that page in your travel folder. Many travelers have literally shown that printout to convince airline agents to let them board. Ask the airline to call US Customs or check the Carrier Liaison Program, CLP. This program exists for exactly this reason, to help airlines verify current immigration rules before denying boarding. Keep digital copies of everything. Save your card, receipt, and the USCIS page on your phone or tablet in case you're asked to email proof. Remember, airlines are not immigration officers. They don't make the rules. They just fear fines for flying someone without valid documents. Your job is to calmly show them the official proof that your documents are valid under US law. Now here's the catch most people miss. This isn't just about renewals. The same confusion can hit if you filed for removal of conditions, Form I-751, or conditional residence extensions, CR1/CR2. Those forms also come with automatic extensions, and they're just as misunderstood by airline staff. So if you're a conditional resident or you've recently renewed, treat your I-797C receipt as gold. Without it, even the best immigration lawyer can't fix a denied boarding once you're standing at the airport. Let's get brutally honest. This mess exists because USCIS digitized faster than airlines adapted. Until every carrier updates its system, the burden falls on travelers to prove their legitimacy at the gate. That's why 2025 isn't just about knowing the immigration law. It's about outsmarting the lag between agencies. You might be legally protected, but unless you can explain that protection clearly and calmly, you could still miss your flight. So before you pack your bags, pack your paperwork twice. Keep physical copies, keep digital backups, and keep your cool. Because in 2025, preparation isn't just power, it's your boarding pass home.